Welcome back, and joining us on the show now is Keith Tan. He's Associate Director, Asia Metals Pricing at S&P Global Commodity Insights. Keith, hi, good to have you. And yet another month which isn't really going down so well for the overall metal as a sector. When you look at the macros, because we've seen the manufacturing data from whether it's about Japan, US, Germany, all of that coming on the weaker side. And the inventories on the other side have been rising as well. So when you look at macros, where would you put your finger on?
Good to be back, Manisha. I would say, indeed, the ferrous markets have been in a bit of a swoon. To say that prices have tanked wouldn't be an exaggeration. So we've seen, again, an indicator of the manufacturing sector would be hot rolled coil prices. These have reached, in Bombay itself, the lowest since December 2020. They flirted briefly below 50,000 rupees, and again, no saying where how this might go. And well, on the backdrop of things, I would say this would likely be not exactly surprising, because we have seasonal off-peak seasons, right, running in both India and China, the major steel markets. So in India, we have the monsoon season there. Budget's just been passed with no big surprises. Continued infrastructure investment being expected. But what's ailing, I would say, that the rest of the market is really news of price declines taking place in China, particularly in the rebar sector. And the rebar price would be a good indicator of where the construction sector is at. Prices in China have fallen to the lowest in 7 years recently. And this would be mainly because of some recent regulatory changes in terms of the specifications that new specifications, national standards have come into play. And traders are now rushing to clear off inventories of cargoes that were made using the older specifications. So again, I think people are now appealing to the government for more time to clear inventories. So there's now a 2-month period for when the new standards are expected to come into effect. In the meantime, I think this has really not just been an impact on steel, but also raw materials. So I think there's a lot to look out for.
So steel at a near 7-year low, Keith, would you say it's near its bottom? Do you see further declines? Do you see buying opportunities now for metals?
Well, I would say from the angle of where we are at seasonal down seasons, both in China and in India, perhaps the bright sparks that remain would be an uptick in potentially some coking coal demand that we've been seeing in the spot market of late, and this is taking place in India. So there's been some demand for coal that's been loading in the months of August. From other regions like Australia. Of course, Diwali should bring a peak steel seasonal demand, as well as the passing of the peak of summer in China, where again construction activity resumes. So I think we'll have to see where prices and how prices weather the coming month. To decide whether
Keith, what's your sense from here?
Declines,
from here, would you say you could see a decline of perhaps 1% and a gain of 2%? How would you look at the risk-reward ratio from these current levels?
That's going to be a tricky call to make. I think I might have, I think let's take a peek potentially at the raw materials, where we've seen. For a bit of a clue, right, where iron ore prices have actually fallen just yesterday for the first time below $100 since April. They're now at the $99.70 level. That's really, again, no surprises given that the steel demand in China has been weak for a while. The property developer situation is something that's unfolding, and I think the market has not really seen a lot of stimulus by way of policies or supportive measures that have been taken, and that's what they've been expecting coming out of the third plenum that's just closed. Again, for more clues, I think coking coal is another key indicator. It's again fallen quite sharply to a level that's last seen in 2023, about a year ago. Again, what's dogging the market, even though there are some supply shortages and then mine issues, again, the demand seems to be outweighing all these supply concerns. So, yeah, I think, again, probably not short-term concerns, and they probably might need to be addressed. Traditionally, we've seen that addressed through policy means,
All right.
tax changes. Yeah.
All right. Keith, thank you so much for joining us. So, well, absolutely, this is an not seasonal demand that we're seeing in Asia, but going forward, as you said, infrastructure demand in India, especially given the fact that we're headed towards festivals and weddings, is something that perhaps could lead to some support and buying coming in for metals. But with that, it's totally out of time on Halftime Report. Business Lunch takes it forward.